All right, we are here again. Myself, Keith, with Julie on your left, co hosting Roll for Mastery on our YouTube channel called DMs Through the Ages. I have to think a second. And we have our guest appearance here from Erika Martin of Elder Martin Publishing, who, if you didn't meet her last time, she is a very busy woman. She has her full time work that pays the bills, and she is aspiring to produce D&D content and continue being the professional DM enough that perhaps actually replaces the real work. I don't know. Uh, oh
One day
no, no, she's
we
saying
can
no.
dream.
One day.
She can
We can
dream,
dream.
but
It's such a lovely dream.
nonetheless, it's a passion of love. She does it because she enjoys it. Kind of converting the hobby into making a few extra bucks, the side hustle, as they say, right?
I
Um,
mean,
and she's doing
it
pretty
ends up
well
being
with it.
so
Yeah.
expensive. You
So
put so much. It'd be nice to make some
but
shells back.
she's making some good headway with it. Her name's getting out, and she's getting recognized, and people in the D&D world are getting to know her and making some progress. But with all that said, we're going to just dive into our topic, which was raised last time we spoke with Erica, and that topic is good players, bad players, toxic players, and just as importantly, as the DM, how do you wrestle with that? How do you deal with that? And dealing with that is very different if it's campaign, right? You get the same group over time or in person versus online, or am I just doing a one shot? And maybe we just need to suck it up for a few hours and be done, and we'll have a next group for the next one shot. How do you deal with that? And if it's a one shot, even at that, maybe they're really bad and they need to go now, but they just paid you to play, so now what? All right,
Oh yeah.
so that's going to be our topic here for the next hour or so, plus or minus. And depending how we feel, maybe we'll then talk about player types or DM types, DM levels, something to
Hey,
that effect. We'll see.
DM types is neat. It's not
Okay,
something people talk about
so
a lot.
I think first we need to define like
Styles.
Yeah.
what is a bad player, what is a toxic player, and I was thinking about that, and I think there is a difference between a toxic player and a bad player. But for purposes of discussion, I don't really feel the need to differentiate that because it's probably a player that you're going to have a little conversation with, or even need to give them the boot one way or another. So, but a bad player is just it's not a good player, right? So maybe they're bad at role playing. Maybe they're bad at they haven't learned their character, right? And certainly if they're new, then they don't know. But at what point do you say, like, dude, it's been 6 months and you still don't know that one spell that you have, right? It's been 6 months and
Which one the 20 is?
and you don't know that you get +1 to hit because you're strong or because you have that magical sword, and we always have to tell you every single time, you
Do
know.
you rage? You know you can rage. Actually, you should be raging every time. Did you rage?
So
Did you give me
there comes a
guidance?
point
Oh, yes,
where the
guidance.
DM starts raising that questions and sees the frustration perhaps with the other players that they're always having to tell this one player who's kind of holding them back a little bit. So there is a difference between bad player, or I guess not, not good player, and a toxic player, right? And that's really what we're talking about, because the toxic ones are just that it'll ruin the game for everyone else or ruin the campaign. And if the DM doesn't do anything about it, they don't act upon it, you're going to wind up with all your shitty players because all the good players are going to leave because they're not having fun.
Yeah,
So
they're gonna be
it
playing somewhere else
it
without you.
it needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed. The elephant in the room needs to be addressed, and the sooner the better, so that you fix it or you get rid of them and everyone else remains happy and continues playing. So I had messaged you guys just a short while ago um, a short list of what I kind of pulled together as categorically toxic players, right? And like signs and symptoms, what to look for. So I think before we talk about what is a toxic player, what would be the signs before we kind of categorize and classify them, right? I don't know how much experience any of us really have with dealing with toxic players. I know mine have been pretty minimal. I think Julie's has been pretty minimal, and Erica
I've had it.
running primarily one shots probably hasn't run into that too much or had to have dealt with it too much. So,
I
in
do receive training in it.
training, say
Um,
official training, say professional DM,
yes.
official training.
So when you have to DM at Comic-Con San Diego, you have players who spend a lot of money. Some of these people travel across the world to be at this event,
Yeah.
and they have expectations, and they have the same expectations as everybody else who wants to play D&D. And those are very difficult people to tell them you have to leave the room because they've paid thousands of dollars to be in that
Hmm.
room. So, and it is expected that the DM is going to know how to handle that. So, our organization does do training to make sure uh, we are prepared as DMs to manage our table appropriately, because we've had really horrendous things that we have to be able to manage. Abandoned children, um, pedophiles,
Yeah,
all sorts of colorful people end up at our tables that it then becomes our responsibility to observe their behavior and
protect
act.
the others. Yeah.
Yes, you have to protect the community. Um, and so, yeah, there have been situations where we have to go through training before we were brought on board and are expected, as any other providing a service to the public, to be able to handle that appropriately.
How do you know if someone has a criminal background? Like, why would you know that?
It's how they act.
No, no, it's not that. It's the filming under the table
Oh,
Yeah.
and then
okay.
having to call the police to come get
Get
this
them.
Okay.
person.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
that's an active crime. That's something.
active,
Yeah. Okay.
100%. And those things happen
Happen
at
a
these
lot.
really big conventions because when you have that many people
People. Yep.
crammed into a space, there's an almost an anonymity that
Mm-hmm.
people feel like they can get away with.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm here for 2 hours and then I'm out. These people don't know me. Um, so they try to get away with things.
Yep.
And there's a lot of temptation at cons. People
Well,
just
and a lot of the way that sadly cosplay is done, it's definitely like if you have someone who's coming to cosplay and comes to D&D while in cosplay,
it
people
happens
find
all the
weird
time.
people find weird fetishes with girls in cosplay. People find weird fetishes with boys in cosplay, and vice
90%
versa, and
of
any
the
kind of
players at
mix
my
of that.
table are in costume at Comic-Con.
And
They're usually
people,
in costume.
strangers get like a weird thing with people in costumes from someone who dresses in costumes a lot.
Yeah, we had a problem where someone was uncomfortable that that two of the players were dressed in Star Wars uniforms that were the green Empire like guards people. Those uniforms were designed in the 70s based off of Nazi uniforms. That's what they were designed based off of. They are not Nazi uniforms. But if you are not familiar with Star Wars, you might look quickly at the gentlemen wearing those outfits and be like, they are dressed like Nazis. And we had to defend players at our table who were in their cosplay, just cosplaying their characters. And it stirred the pot, right? Pots get stirred in public. And it is only to a dungeon master or game master's benefit to be able to handle that gracefully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So
Great tool to have in your pocket.
So, kind of building off what we're talking about, right? It's like signs and symptoms, well, not symptoms, but signs, right? That you might have a toxic player. Well, obviously, if someone's filming people without their consent,
Sometimes they're
above table or below table, right?
toxic is
You know,
very obvious on some people.
um, then yeah, like that's wrong. Like, dude, you got to go, or ma'am, you got to go. If it's consent, and then it's consent, right? If it's adult consent, then everyone agreed to that, then that's not a problem. But if you don't
Right.
have that consent, and from your example, your scenario, there was not consent for that, then you got to go. So there are things you look for, right? Certain signs. So um, while that is very, hopefully, that's very overt, right? That's very obvious. Even if
And it's fair.
even if you don't see it, right? That would be the kind of very overt kind of thing, as opposed to things that are a little more subtle, which I kind of message you guys about. So, kind of just looking at my first bullet point there, number A, right? Players no longer
Number A.
contributing. Okay, so and of course we're talking about positive contribution, not that they're just that they're contributing positively. That's one thing, but for them to not contribute at all, then you start raising the question as the DM why, right?
Like
Or
they're not
negatively.
participating in the story.
Right? Are they not fitting in? Are they not liking the game? But are they not contributing because the guy next to him shoots down everything that they say every single time,
Hmm.
and they just say, you know what, I'm just going to be quiet. I'm just going to be present and not really play. So that's what I'm talking about there as to their level of contributing or engagement, right?
Is
So
it
like,
because they're not engaged or because they're being shut down all the time?
right.
Like, you know,
Right, and as the DM,
noticing the
as the
difference.
DM, you need to see that, right? On Tuesday nights for the few trailing weeks towards the end of our last module, and I brought this up with Julie, and I'll bring it up again and again, but I wasn't seeing her engagement in the game for a few weeks, So, well, I mean, while she might say, "Oh, it wasn't because of that; it was because of this,"
Us meet
but
Julie.
but you know but visually I saw that and I took those cues and I said, okay, she's not being engaged. Like, why? I raised the question to myself, why? Like, why is she not engaged? She was so active before, and now she's withdrawn a little bit, right? um and
I'm part of that.
so I kind of read those visual cues from her, and I said, this is what I see. This is my proposed course of action. I threw it out to the group even without, fingering Julie as why. I was generic with that, and they said, okay, let's go ahead and move forward with that course of action. Go ahead, Julie, sidebar.
Sidebar was that I got told I was a main character, and so then maybe I was doing too much. And so I wanted to back off just in case I was a main character and didn't realize it.
That's
Okay.
my toxic trait too. I'm
Yes.
so
I'm a main
sorry.
character. I
Okay,
get
now
really
now keep in
excited.
mind,
That's my
please
problem.
keep in mind that Julie was told that she was the main character by a player who
That is no
was
longer with
was
us.
throwing a hissy fit and then just quit without
Yeah.
any warning at all. So
Oh, that's
accusations were
so
made,
helpful.
which the rest of the group felt was not substantiated at all, and he left.
Someone came at you.
So the point is, you have to read those visual cues as to why that player has kind of lost that engagement, is not contributing, right? There's reasons for that, right? Maybe they don't feel well. Maybe they got a lot of shit going on at home that's distracting them. Maybe it's the guy sitting, like I said, the guy sitting next to him that's ruining the game for him. But and I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but if it's something going on at home and they're mentally checked out week after week after week, well, then maybe they need to take a hiatus. Maybe they need to go take a rest, right? Because at
Maybe
that point,
D&D is not for them right
you're
then.
hold, yeah, not right now. This is not going to work for you, and you're holding everyone else back. But so you need to get to the root of the problem. You have to read the table, read your audience, right? No
Hmm.
different than if you're providing a lecture or something. You need to read your audience, or if you're a stand-up comic, I don't know. So the second bullet
No.
point is the DM is not having fun because of the players, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, and that's perhaps even harder to identify, because oftentimes as DMs we just kind of dredge through it. And
Oh no, I have a toxic trait, not my personal trait. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. You'd have to tell me. It's my DM. Uh, that player that I can't stand is the one who tries to beat the game.
okay,
Oh,
yeah,
They
yeah.
they come to the table
Hyper
and
competitive.
their job that they have in their head is I am going to tear down whatever this DM puts in front of me, just like to be ornery or to be
Oh, despite the
difficult.
DM.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. One of those
I
like,
know a couple
I
players
see
that
where you're
I
going
don't
and
care
I'm
about
going
the
to
game.
intentionally go over this way
Hmm.
because, you know, them
A
uh
derailer.
yes, yes, like the whole purpose that they come to the table with is how can I beat the DM? How can I
Yeah.
avoid doing what they're
It
trying
re-
to
it
make
almost
me
sounds like you read my notes. It
do?
really does.
How
So we're getting a little ahead of ourselves
how
as to the
can
type
God
of
hate
toxic
me?
players.
Well,
Um,
that is the player that I think is the most
okay,
disruptive to
for
the
you.
DM's ability to
Okay,
remain. For me, yes,
yes,
absolutely.
okay,
Yeah, what I think is my that player.
got you.
I'll manage a
Um,
lot of other things, but oh man, this is a group game.
correct.
We are in the
All right.
same boat.
Number
Yeah.
C is you spend too much time arguing with the play as the DM, arguing with the players or dealing with their drama.
Oh
I'm
no.
so glad I've never had
You know,
like a married couple fighting at my table,
well,
or a boyfriend and a
or
girlfriend.
even the drama that one player is creating with this other player, right?
Yeah,
Whether that be personal
non-related.
or even if it's in gameplay and neither one of them are having a tough time separating character versus player kind of thing,
That could be hard too. Those
right?
Oh
boundaries.
So at
yeah.
that point, as a DM, you might have to have a little conversation and see if you can
My
iron things
players
out.
like
And if
pull their
you
mask
know,
off for a
and
second
maybe
and
need to.
they'll tell somebody like, "No, I'm just role playing. I love you. Please don't take it the wrong way." My players will
We
do that sometimes.
have sometimes had hand symbols
Yeah,
where
remember you
we're
said that.
like,
Yeah.
I'm about to say something that is not something I would say, but my
Horribly
character's
mean.
gonna say it. Like you can tell the people who are empathetic in their approach,
Right.
versus the people who look at this as an opportunity to be an asshole.
To dick on someone
Yeah,
intentionally,
and
yeah.
then just
Yeah.
say, "Oh, that's what my character would do."
Yes.
Yeah, no, no,
Oh,
no,
use the
no.
game as an
Yeah,
excuse.
you are
Hmm.
projecting your personal issues on your character, so you can
You
just
just want to be a bully.
vent it out. Yeah. All right. Let me see. Number D. Good players stop leaving your game because you have not recognized or taken action pertaining to this toxic player, and the other people are not having fun, so they start dipping
Oh,
out.
as a sign.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We're talking about signs of bad players, right?
Yeah.
And then, like I said at the start, then you wind up with all your shitty players because all your good players left,
Hmm.
Yep.
and now
And
what?
then you have a table of shit.
Right, and you have that, or you then kick everyone to the curb, and now you have nothing.
You start all over.
Yeah, and he's starting from scratch. And speaking from experience, it's not all that easy to find a group, especially a good group, and especially a good group that congeals and plays well together.
So
It's
one of the ways
it
that's
takes
easy to
time.
tell if if your players are engaged, if this is going to be something that we try to help other people if they're watching this, because I'm so sorry, Keith, I got derailed. I didn't realize we were talking about the symptoms. You are absolutely correct. The symptoms that I notice when it comes to a player no longer being able to contribute is their inability to talk about what's going on in the game. So
Oh, lack
if
of attention.
if you get to your game and you can't, I mean, obviously we can't all remember everything, but if you don't remember where you are, not like
Yep.
physically, like are we at camp or whatever, but if you don't
Story.
remember the story that got you there, then
Yep.
you weren't paying attention on your way
The
there.
entire time. Right.
And so sometimes it's helpful just to ask your players, hey, can you give me a summary? Does someone want to do the summary other than me? Just to see how much your
Anybody
players
remember
have
what happened?
absorbed. Yeah. And it's a very natural thing for a DM to do. And if they do feel like they're put on the spot, you can make it a circle event. Like, all right, everyone, while I'm prepping this, everyone go around and talk about what they remember. And you don't even have to be like grilling them, but just while you're setting up, listening to what they say. And it gives you a pretty decent idea of who's paying attention to
On the
how
ball.
much.
And who's not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it gets you your summary done.
it does.
Yeah.
So I have addressed that with varying degrees of success. By for my in-person game, I have a player binder, a three-ring binder on the table for them.
I have a binder.
In that binder are their character
We came up
sheets.
with the idea together.
In that binder
That's a really cool
is a
idea.
map or two that they may have acquired, or I said, hey man, it's just gonna make the game so much easier. Um, and I also have note sheets. I don't mean blank
So
pieces of
these are
paper.
things that the players might not remember, but their characters should. Like this
Correct.
is the
Correct. Yep. So it's their
codex
What
opportunity
happened
for
this
to take
session?
notation of
yeah, a
what
little
happened,
encyclopedia.
during the session, right? Who the important character, and again, it's not a blank piece of paper. I actually have like a MS Doc file, a form, if
We
you
have
will.
like a worksheet. Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
who are the important characters? Are they good, bad, neutral? Should we talk to them later? What happened
Open quests,
during the session? What do we want to start with next time? That kind of thing, right? So it
items.
helps the players, especially if someone is absent a week, right? And then they show up, they can just thumb through and skim over that and pick up right where we where they should be, right?
That's very
So,
organized.
well, that's me, yeah. Um, so
I
I
also
kind
don't
of
think of these things. I run one shots. Like
address
I
it
don't
that
have to
way.
think about
No.
the
Continuation.
continuation.
And
Yeah.
in my online games, same thing essentially is everyone. I don't say everyone, but there are certain tasks, certain jobs that have been assigned to some of the players. One of them being the note taker. In both my
Mhm. Yeah.
games, we have a note taker, and that person at the end of the session or a day or two before the next game post their notes that they took a summary of the series of events from their personal perspective, not from the player's perspective. Excuse me, from the player's perspective, not necessarily the character's perspective. Just a chronology of what happened and what transpired, and that serves as a refresher for all of us.
I
Now,
actually do though. I do have a sorry to interrupt you.
no, go ahead, you're
I
fine.
do have a character that does take all of her game notes in character.
Oh,
So
my
like
players do that.
in
All of my
voice,
notes.
and then I send them to the other players to be like, this is how what I got out of this session, or my player or my character got out of this session.
So we have a new player with us on Tuesday, and he asked about note taking, right? Should I take notes? Can I take notes? I said I always encourage players to take notes, right? And then he's taking the notes through the character's perspective, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
I said,
My
okay,
whole
well,
table does
I
that.
said that's different.
that's what I do.
I said that's a little different for me. I'm not quite accustomed to that as the DM, because when I take notes for myself as the DM or even as the player, I'm not really taking it through my character's eyes. I'm taking it through my personal eyes as the player or as the DM, because I know if I take it as the player, I can immediately translate that to my player's eyes, right? Because I know how my character sees things. So he posted that. I was like, wow, that's kind of neat. I kind of like it. It wasn't what I was expecting, but I kind of like that. So we
So I
create.
do it.
So in Discord, we created a
Oh, sorry.
separate thread for him just so he can post all his from his character's perspective, while the other player, puts his notes for the session.
Excellent. I do it from my perspective, and then I do what I call like my boxes. So I take my notes as what my character is, and then if I have to leave a note for Erica, the player, I will make a box and then write by that so that I know what Erica's taking note of versus my character. Because if I am, most of the games I play in are long campaigns, and I'm a role player. Not everyone is, but I'm a role player. And I like knowing the difference between what Erica knows and what the character does. I don't
Yeah,
want to
that's cool.
accidentally weeks later be like, oh, and
Metagame.
then, yeah, exactly. And have my character be
Accidentally
like,
metagame.
actually, I wasn't even there. I wouldn't have known that. So that's why I do it in my character's view and then make notes for Erica later.
Yeah, that's smart.
And it helps you get in character when you reread your notes before the next game.
Yeah, all of my characters do all of theirs in like character voices. We've kind of fallen off the table a little bit, and I might have to fill in some for them. I don't have anyone who's like chomping at the bit to be the note taker, like the permanent note taker. I've kind of had to like force them to write in it a little bit.
Hmm.
But we are gonna take a little break. We're gonna like stop our main campaign, and I'm gonna do like a side campaign for a couple months. So
Ooh.
I'm gonna have to have them try and fill something in because after that 2 or 3 months that we play that side campaign, when we
Yeah, they're
come
gonna
back to
forget.
the
Yeah, yeah.
regular campaign,
So,
yeah, they're gonna have no
so
idea
yeah.
what the
So
heck they're
my
doing.
suggestion on that, Julie, is like the last 3 weeks that you play your main campaign, those notes need to be rock solid. Those last three
Yeah.
weeks,
Otherwise, it's not
because
gonna
if
happen.
they're weak, then they're going to come back 2, 3 months later and still be struggling to piece
Uh,
things together.
uh,
So those last three
uh.
weeks need to be solid on note taking. All right.
Yeah.
Letter or number E. The DM speaks to the player about their behavior or whatever, in game, how they're behaving, how they're acting, and the DM speaks to them, and it continues, and it continues, and it continues. That might be time or sign that it's time to get rid of this guy, this person. Number F, and I definitely have encountered this. They're unreliable. They're frequently missing
Mm.
game sessions, whether it be personal reasons like work, life, whatever. If they're always sick all the time, but it raises the question: why? Right? Are they missing it because they don't like that other player, so therefore they're not having fun and they're not showing up? And the person who's not showing up is really not the one who needs to go. It's the other guy. Or is it because they're just not engaged? They're not having fun. There's always something, right? We all know those people that oh, that's the guy. Yeah, it's always something with that person. Is it one of those people where it's always something, and that just tells you that they're really not enjoying it enough. They're not having fun, or they're just not committed to it. And
That.
if you're running a one shot, that's not a big deal. But if you're running an ongoing campaign with the same fixed group, week after week, month after month, year after year, and this person is showing up every 5 times, no,
And
for,
I
yeah.
realize it's a game, but so's like basketball. You still need
Yes,
five people to
you
play,
you are
right?
you
Like
are
it's
on a
a game,
team, right? And
but you're on a team.
if you both remember, because you guys, IDM for both of you, at our pre-session zero or during session zero, I said that to you guys. I kind of related to D&D as you are part of a team sport, whether it be baseball,
Mhm.
football, wrestling, bowling. You have joined the team, you've joined that league. Your team is counting on you to be there every week.
Yep.
Life happens. I don't feel well. I can't make it this week. That's fine. We get that. That
Yeah,
happens.
that's
But
life.
but when it becomes a pattern, and for half of the season you're not there, like
But
that,
it's treated as
you know,
disposable. When a player goes from being a team member to treating it like it is something they can decide right before
right?
if they want to or not, like that's not how you should be
No.
entering this space.
And I agree, and I
Mm-mm.
think that's and kind of acknowledging that it is a group effort, kind of a team sport, so to speak. Then that's
Hmm.
disrespectful to the rest of the team
Yeah.
if you're viewing it that way, if you're treating it that way, because everyone else is all in. They're there.
And what happens if you all show up to a game and you don't have enough people to compete?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That means everybody
You can't
loses
play.
out because
that's
you
right.
just didn't feel like
That's
it.
right.
Like, there's obviously a difference between things coming up, and that's when I do say this is a game. Even
Yeah.
Yeah.
basketball's a game, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't get, I say basketball because I honestly couldn't think of any other sport at the time. The the uh the priorities still need to be, life, work, games.
Yeah.
Family games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? Oh, sorry. It's in life.
Family's life.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
families
families
and
in life.
life. Yeah, life. Sorry.
Life, uh,
Blah, blah,
you know,
blah, blah.
work,
Yeah.
whatever, but it comes after. Recreation always comes after, but it's still a commitment.
Right.
It is. It is. It's not just a hobby in the sense that, oh, I'm going to make this little craft. I'm going to do some crafts on Saturday at home by myself, and if I don't do it, it's not a big deal. No, like other
And if
people are
you want
kind
to
of
play D&D
relying
that way,
on
that's
me.
fine. There
It's
are
a
plenty
group
of plays.
it's a group activity. All right, number G is incompatible play styles, and number H is personality conflicts. I think those two kind of are tangential to each other at the very least, if not directly related. So sometimes people just don't play nice in the sandbox with each other, right? It just happens. So then something's got to give, and just got to figure out
Eventually.
as the DM or as the group who who's the one who's the most problematic of those two or of those three. And incompatible play styles, that I would say that's kind of resolved at a session zero, right? You ladies both know I sat down, I said, this is the type of game I run, this is how we play. And when we have new players coming in, we vet them in the sense of, well, I chat with them for a little while first. I have them watch a game or even sit in on a game with us to see our play style to make sure that they know they're going to see that they're compatible with our play styles. But sometimes you don't know that. Erica, example,
Mhm.
one shot
So,
does
yeah,
convention.
go
She
ahead.
has no idea who the hell's going to show up.
Nope. But we do advertise our games to take care to an attempt to take care of this. For instance, when I write a game for the women's group that does monthly one shots, we are expected to give our games a TV rating like PG, PG-13, R. We're expected to include potential trigger warnings in case, there's something in your story that is dark or could be considered a trigger. Um, and and we are expected to do a brief overview. This gives people an idea, it's not, you don't want to tell them the whole story, but
No.
they we've kind of
Brief
phrased it,
summary.
say, by agreeing to sign up for this game, you are agreeing to all of these things that we've laid out
Thanks.
for
Hmm.
you. Um, we don't go to the level of describing how much play, or what kind of play it is, but the trigger warnings do give you an idea of how dark or how, macabre it might get. Um, and the play style, sometimes some Adventure League stuff does lay out whether things are combat heavy, role play heavy, puzzle heavy, or not. Um, but it is still up to the player to accept that when they are signing up for that game, they're saying yes to play under the conditions that have already been outlined.
Can you give us some examples of what those like trigger warnings would be? I know like in
Oh,
movies and
absolutely.
televisions they always promote kind of flashing lights, right? Might cause
Blood
seizures
and
kind of
gore.
thing. Or,
Yes.
but
So,
what would be some of yours or that you've seen?
yeah, so we get a lot of people don't want to see harm to children and animals. So, not including animal torture, animal death, using different, if there is a pet, let's say this is John Wick, The dog doesn't have to die in the beginning. He could just be knocked unconscious. Things like that. But say your story does have character or animal
Animal.
abuse in it or something
Yeah.
like that, you would write animal abuse as a trigger warning to let them know that it could potentially exist in the story. Uh, that's a big one. Another one we see, I guess, somewhat often, is body horror. Some people really don't like
Want the gore.
having gore and the turning of human bodies into other things,
Yeah.
or having the body be manipulated in a way it shouldn't be.
Yes,
I,
Because
hydras.
gore is its own category too.
so
Uh,
just so I understand, the killing of a bear in the valley of the day rain, would that be animal cruelty?
no,
No.
no, no. This would be
Okay.
like if somebody's pet was taken and tortured, or uh, their child was
Okay.
taken,
I
somebody's
just
child
okay.
was taken and tortured.
Maybe it's my. I'm going to say this in the true sense of the word.
Companions and pets.
Then this is my ignorance because I can't fathom why anyone would actually role play that out or even provide enough descriptors should that happen that it's going to freak people out. If the child was
I probably
kidnapped
gave a better
and
example.
tortured, right? And that is story relevant and the characters need to know that, then the DM should just say, okay, the child was kidnapped and was tortured and be done. I don't, there's no need to be graphic about that. And then you said something, body changing, right? So does that mean like polymorphing?
No,
No,
Okay, then
that's
no,
not
no,
what
body
does that
no.
mean?
horror. Body horror is
Uh,
what's the
I
movie
guess
with what's the doodle in it and they all of them like have the
Saw.
it. No, no, not it. No, what's the? It's a really old movie with Kurt Russell in it. They're all in the Arctic. Well, so it's like it's a thing that takes. I think it's the thing. It takes
Is it
over
thing?
your body and it turns into an exact replica. But if you catch it before it turns into the exact replica,
Body
it turns into this
snatchers?
horrible, horrible monster. I'm pretty sure it's just the
So the
thing.
definition of body horror
Yes.
And
is
it's people's bodies being torn apart and stuff.
is a horror that focuses on the grotesque, disturbing, or psychologically terrifying violation, transformation, decay, or mutation of the human body. So anything that uh,
Extreme.
takes the human body to, because it doesn't have to be gore, right? It could just be something that is
I'm right. It is the
really
thing.
screwed up,
Right, right, right.
that for instance, let's go there. The human centipede, right?
Yeah,
Whoa,
it's
whoa,
Do you know
whoa,
disgusting.
what the
whoa,
human
whoa.
centipede is?
No, no, no. What is this human centipede?
It was a movie where a psycho stitched a group of people together, ass to mouth,
Huh.
in a line so that they shared the same digestional tract from start to finish. There was no blood, I mean,
Right, right.
obviously a little bit.
It wasn't gore, right? I got you.
It wasn't gore, but that is body horror.
And that's the
Okay.
monster, the main monster of the
Okay.
like the whole
Okay.
thing.
Yes.
Okay.
So
I have an understanding now. I
Have you
just
seen The Witcher?
that just wouldn't be in my game. So yeah. Okay.
yes, it isn't
Have you seen The Witcher?
there's obviously lots of things you can put as triggers.
Yes. The Witcher. I watched a couple episodes, and that's as far as I made it.
Okay, so in the second season, the Bane girl gets like kidnapped and he tries to track her down and they track them down to this like cave where they think they find her but they don't. But in all actuality this horrible mutated creature abomination of just arms and legs and bodies like attacks him and he has to kill it, but all the heads are like magically separated from the bodies and the heads can like talk but they don't control the body anymore. And
Hmm.
it's really bad body horror. I'm right. It is the thing, by the way, my previous
It
reference.
is? Okay.
Yeah, just Google not the thing Fantastic Four, but the thing the
Yeah.
movie,
Oh,
and
yes,
you can
yes.
see they like made this with old school 80s like actual props, and it's
Awesome.
just it's awful and
Special
disgusting
effects.
looking, and it's super cool.
Practical effects.
It's very fake looking, but it is a great example of body horror.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
See.
So when we provide these trigger warnings, that's what we're trying to filter for. And obviously, I gave some really big extreme ones. Trying to think what are the most common one. And by think,
I'm sure.
Child abuse,
Yeah.
nudity. If nudity is going to exist in your game or the reference to nudity, that's something people should know about. Yeah, it doesn't have to be always about damage or death.
Harassment.
Death. If somebody is going to be harassed or kidnapping is something you would put in the trigger warning. That's something that happens a lot in D&D. You don't know if you have a
Romance.
player who has experienced that. Uh, there's Actually, I just had a brunch with a lovely group of friends, and the DM expressed to me that he had or he had told me about a situation he was in where he had a character whose sister died and was put into a phylactery, and they were all looking for this phylactery, not realizing one of his players had a sister that died that year.
Mm,
So it was a huge trigger
Oh
right.
for
God.
that player.
Oh God.
So
Oh God.
that player probably would have liked to have known going into the game that there
Just
was
a little
going to
quick
be a
snippet.
death of a sibling in
Yep.
there, like
Yeah.
um, as a
To
warning.
prepare for it or walk away. Yeah.
Obviously, we're not always all covered in bubble wrap and can protect ourselves from everything. But as the dungeon master, it's totally our responsibility to make sure that people at our table are comfortable and happy and enjoy their game. And if that means you take a couple extra minutes to put a few extra words on a module, I would do that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And while I've seen people online, i.e., YouTube, say, "Oh yeah, you have a sign, right?" And the whole game stops and all this other stuff, and then the old school guys like say, "Oh, like what are you talking about? Like why would you do such a thing? Like if you can't handle it, get out." But I understand what you're saying, Eric, and again, I don't disagree. I can definitely respect that, and that's kind of the best you guys come on a one shot to a session zero to say, hey, this is how this game's going to run.
Exactly. It's
Um,
the best we can do.
right, right, right. Um, now, for me, being that well, I was able to have a session zero with it with all the players, right, individually.
Right.
Um, And since we're a long drawn out campaign, usually those kind of things kind of happen over time, right? Okay, so the child kidnapping or abduction, whatever, yeah, that was going to happen like that. But usually there's things of events that kind of lead up to that, that the players and the characters can kind of get a feel for. So even though they may not have told me, hey, this is a concern for me, are you going to have this in the game? Again, they can probably see the writing on the wall that that's going to come. And at least with the players that I've selected, and I do use that word selected, I would think that all of them would be able to not only just see that, but be big enough to raise their hands out of game perhaps and say, hey, this is a concern of mine. It looks like this might happen, you know?
Hmm.
And then obviously I'd have to address that. But okay, all right, so at least I understand what you guys are talking about with that.
Yeah.
So that's all that I had noted, as you guys know there in my message I sent you, as to things to look for as the DM. How to identify that what a toxic player may be, or where they, your signs, if you will. So um, then I have 8 that I identified as the categorically the different types or labels we'll put on our toxic players. So, how do you guys want to address that? You guys want me to keep talking as I do and get it
Yeah,
started,
you can be our narrator.
or do you guys want to take one of you want to take the first one, the limelighter, and
Oh God. Okay, I feel like that's appropriate for me to take.
okay,
Is
all
that
right,
is the limelighter also the main character?
okay,
Yes.
Yeah.
Ms.
Yeah.
Limelighter.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
did you get the irony in that?
Mm. That it's the first one on the list.
And I volunteered. Please let me.
Mm.
All right, Ms.
No,
Limelighter. What is the
there
how?
are.
What do you see the Limelighter toxic player to be? How would
They've
you
got main
identify them?
character syndrome. This is my main character syndrome. They are the person who wants to do all the talking. They think the game is made for them. They forget there are other players who also want to participate and might also want to talk and have ideas. Uh, it's not always a malicious thing. Some of us just really get
It's not.
enthusiastic and have a
Yep.
hard time reining that in. But it exists, and it is the DM's job to help rein that in, help notice when it's happening, help do things. And I and maybe it took me 42 years to get here, but I'm a very self-aware player when it comes to my toxic traits, and I am a limelighter. Every single time I sit at a table, I know this about myself, so I do things to prevent it. Yesterday, I played in a game and I sat as far away from the DM as I possibly could because I knew the temptation of that eye contact sitting right there and all of the players being behind me. That's bad. That's me going like, this game is just for us. Isn't this precious? Look at my little thing. And you forget. So I intentionally sat in the far
You answer
back.
all their questions, and you have all of
See,
the sub
okay,
theories.
so Erica, I think you're spot on as to what the limelighter is, or the protagonist, right? It's all about me, 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 selfish, and pay all the lights. Every
I think there are worse ways that it can
Main
be handled.
character
I don't
so
think
syndrome.
they're that
a
bad.
a well-run game, every character, every player is going to get a few minutes of the
Should have an
spotlight throughout the game, right?
an
Now,
opportunity.
that ideally happens every game session. Certainly in a one shot that has to happen, right? Ideally, it happens in every session, but it may not, right? If you have five players, maybe three or four out of the five really got the spotlight on that one game session because the other character it didn't really work out for them. But over time, everyone kind of gets their fair share. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the player who intentionally tries to get all the attention for themselves. They put the spotlight on them. Maybe they even overly coach those around them a little bit. And when the spotlight's not on them, they tend to check out and just all right, well, it's not about me right now, so I'm just going to sit back here until I can create the opportunity and make it about me. Now, and that's the thing. It's when that player makes everything about them and their character, and not organically it happens in the story, right? And it's kind of their 15 minutes in the spotlight, and then it's that other character's 15. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the one who intentionally makes everything about them. And like Erica said, I think the DM, this is one that's not particularly difficult for the DM to handle because you can kind of redirect things
It's
or
obvious.
focus on someone else. I
Very
think this is one of the
obvious.
easy ones to do, and it tends to be pretty obvious. Now, for me as the player, though, Erica, to kind of address your concern, I tend to sit in the back, exactly like you described. Okay, not because I'm the limelighter. I think I can if I'm playing with other players who are, I'll say, submissive or passive, but I like to sit in the back because then I can see what all the other players are doing, right? I can see if they're paying attention because I want to know who's paying attention. I want to know who's actually playing the game or they're just here to socialize, right?
Mhm.
But also I can see if they're looking through their character sheet. Maybe they're planning and I can see, hey, they're starting to plan something. Hey, what are you thinking about? And I can add, and then I can kind of engage with the other players. So it helps me survey the table, and maybe that's the DM in me. I don't know. I mean, I'm more player than I am DM, but I like to sit in the back as well. Not for your reason, but I like to sit in the back too. So, all right. So, Julie, any thought on limelighting? You limelighter that
I
you are?
think I yeah, it's me. I get if the story's really good, I'm sitting there asking questions to the DM as well. I'm giving them all of my opinions. So for me personally, and I think this kind of I did it a lot in my Saturday campaign. It's only us four players on my Saturday campaign. And the story got really good, and so sometimes I actually have to distract myself, and so sometimes I am the player on the phone. I am the player messing around with the music. I am the player doodling a picture in my book about
No, I
something that
doodle.
happened in the campaign because I have to distract myself because I can hear what's going on because of my ADD. I can multitask rather efficiently ish. Um, and I can usually hear while I'm doing something else. So I will distract
But it
myself on
prevents
purpose
you from interrupting.
because if I don't, I will interrupt.
I want to roll all the checks. I want to do all the things. I want to do it all.
Now,
I don't want to
now,
share.
Especially when the answers that my other character friends don't give quite align with my working theory, and I have to stay quiet about it because they have individual ideas and are individual people who need
Individual
individual
ideas.
things.
What is this?
But what about my idea?
Is this a group game?
Um, so I have to distract myself sometimes. And it's not because the game isn't good, it's actually the opposite. It's that the game is too good and I have to
And
or I
I
will
will
be a
steamroll.
horrible horrible steamroller.
All right, so
I am
now, so ladies,
self-distracting.
let's pull us back in here for just a second
Oh,
from
it's so bad.
from the DM's perspective, right? So the DM, I think this is one of the
I
easier
like over
ones.
enthusiastic players because
One
you
of
can be
the
like, yeah,
easier
hold
ones
that.
to recognize as for the DM. It should be one of the easy ones for the DM to recognize, and I think it's one of the easier ones for the DM to address. Because sometimes it doesn't even need to be addressed, right? The DM can just completely shift directions in the game, in the story, in that moment, and focus on
Oh no.
another player. Now, for
Yep.
me, um, that's something that I tend to do. Uh, I'll say organically, but intentionally as well, especially when we're in social role play, and you both can attest to this, right? The party has split in town. Some are at the tavern, some have gone to the chapel, some have gone to the store. And I come over here to the tavern, and we have our social interaction with those players, those NPC, and those NPCs at the tavern for whatever 5 minutes or so of actual real time, 5, 7 minutes, maybe 10, and then I just put a pin in it and I shift over to these characters over here, right? And then I'll shift
Mhm.
over to those and we'll come back and we circle around so that the players who are not involved in that interaction aren't waiting 30 minutes for those players to wrap up their conversation with those NPCs. And then they're sitting around for 30 minutes twiddling their thumbs. And then the third group over here has waited 30 minutes over here and 20 minutes over there, and they're waiting an hour almost till they get to do anything. So no,
Yeah, I
five
try
minutes,
to
5 minutes,
bounce.
5 minutes, and we just bounce around. So
I try.
it that also keeps the limelight type player, kind of keeps them in check. Because all right, dude, you got 5 minutes, and then I'm shifting to
Yeah,
someone else. I don't give a shit what you're talking about, what you're doing. We're shifting. Put a pin in it. We'll get back to you. And if you're that kind of player, I might get back to you a little
a little
slower,
later.
and you might get a little less light next time. But yeah, that's I think it's easier for the DM to address.
The other type of limelighter that we're kind of trained to look out for, when you're at really big conventions, there's a specific limelighter that doesn't do it on purpose, but the rest of the table has decided that this other player is far more interesting than the DM. And so the
Mm,
whole table is now listening to them instead of the DM. And this is a really
Oh,
common problem at conventions when you have a celebrity at your table. If you are playing with somebody who is famous,
Oh, I
it
didn't think
doesn't
about that.
matter. Yeah, it does not matter. They are a player. But everyone else at the table is going to be so excited to be able to play with this celebrity that they're not looking at the DM anymore. They're taking all of their cues from the celebrity instead. So they're not doing it intentionally. They have not set themselves up or interrupted people or anything like that, but the rest of the table has decided they are the limelight. So that is a very challenging DM challenge
hmm.
to
Yeah,
figure out how to wrestle back that attention.
yeah, and I think that also if you have that type of the celebrity player that you're talking about, they know their status in this realm, in this world, right?
I bet you they try really hard to not do the thing.
So then that puts a certain responsibility on that celebrity player to be a good player and not allow that to happen, right?
Yeah.
If that much light is on them, they need to deflect some of that onto the other players and pull the other players in and get them engaged or ask them questions and make it collaborative and not about that one celebrity player. And that's a whole other
Or send it
topic
back to the DM.
of good players, right?
Keep redirecting back to the DM.
What makes a good player and the
yeah. Hey
types of
guys, look at
players. That's a
this.
whole other conversation. But all right, so next bullet point, number two, rules lawyers and backseat DMs. So now
These are my favorite.
a rules
Good
lawyer
and
is
toxic.
not someone who's knowledgeable. We're not talking about
No.
that. We're talking about the lawyer who wants to argue every rule, who wants to debate it with you, who wants to challenge the DM, sometimes for no other reason than to be challenging and give you a hard time and question your ruling on every
Disruptive.
single thing. Now, in rules heavy games, maybe there's even more of that. I don't know. There's more of it because there's more rules, right? But I'm thinking there's less of it in the rules heavy games because there's so many rules and everything's so well defined it's not open to interpretation as much as rules light games as we see in OSR, right? Old school revival, old school renaissance, whatever you want to call it. So if you look at old school essentials, dungeon crawl classics, D&D first and second edition, those rules light games are Shadow Dark now, um, they're very open to adjudication and interpretation, and the DM mitigates a lot of these, or not mitigates, adjudicates a lot of these rules. So that's much more open to having that rules lawyer really get up in your face on that.
The
Um,
gray area rules.
yeah, or just
Yeah.
even interpretation. I had
That
one
was
not
cool.
that long ago on Friday night. In the phrasing of a
What is a
spell.
trap?
Yeah, well, yeah, okay. So it was a character's ability. I think it was a dwarf. The ability to detect a trap. And I was like, okay, well, how do you?
I think it was
I felt like
malicious.
I was at the um, president trial there. What was his name?
Presidential debate.
What does the word is mean? What is a trap? How do you define a trap? Oh, the guy who had the affair in the Oval Office, Clinton,
Clinton?
Oh,
Clinton,
Clinton.
Clinton. Yeah,
Like a debrief or
yeah,
whatever. Not a debrief.
yeah. And he
I
raised
know
it
what
up.
you're talking
He's like,
about.
oh, what do you mean by the word is? Anyway, um, so like a trap. Like, okay, guys, what do we mean by a trap? Because specifically the question was, is a pit a trap?
Yeah, it's a
That was
hole
the
in a
question,
grounded
and
trap.
that's what we were kind of debating. So now the player was not challenging me on this, like he wasn't really arguing with me about it. He wasn't really making his pleading a case per
Yeah, I
se.
think he
But
actually wanted to know.
but yes, but the topic came up of how do we interpret this? So I'm making this point for what do we mean by interpretation, and I guess what isn't a rules lawyer. So but I involved the players. I said, and I kind of we debated back and forth. I'm like, I'm thinking this. I hear your argument on that. I kind of like the point you're making there. And I even pooled a couple of Julie's players from her game in the next room and say, hey, what do you
Yeah.
guys think this means? You know, so it's
And the
okay.
conversation's more interesting than it.
So it's okay to
Overtakes your
have
game.
that discussion if it's a discussion. But if you're the rules lawyer who's just arguing for the sake of arguing, or really trying to plead his case and not being respectful to the DM adjudicating that, especially in the moment,
Actually,
especially in the middle of the gameplay, I myself, I'm not going to stop for 15, 20 minutes during gameplay to argue this point or debate this point when we can just make a quick ruling, like it or not, we're going to move on and we can revisit that after the game. I was watching a YouTube video earlier today and he was describing a player who was doing just that. They were being a rules lawyer for their benefit, not because, hey, I think the rule means this. I think it should work this way right here, right now for me. And the example
Mhm.
he gave was like 5 feet, right? Every grid block, whatever, is a 10-foot grid or whatever it was, 5-foot grid. So if it's a 5-foot grid here and a 5-foot grid here, and I can reach 5 feet, can I reach to that one kind of thing? And they say, oh, well, we measure from the center grid to center grid. And I guess the player was like trying to make the argument, well, if I'm always at the edge of the grid, then I can reach all the way to the other side of the grid and that kind of thing. That's
oh,
when
I
you
had that conversation.
that's when you're being a rules lawyer because you not only are you arguing a point that shouldn't be argued, you're not respecting
Doesn't matter.
the DM in their ruling on that, and you're wasting so much time on this, and more so, you're arguing this point. You're trying to modify the way that you guys have played all along for your character right now, not for the
Get away with
overall for
something.
everyone, for you right now. Now, and of course, now so the other part, the flip side of this coin is the backseat DM. That is the guy who wants to be the DM or has always been the DM and trying to tell
Um,
the
yeah.
DM at that game how to do their job, how to be the DM.
I
And
love these
and
ones
I am sure at conventions you get that.
all the time. Rules lawyers and backseat DMs. I love them because they don't have the power they think they do. Um, to be honest, the things you see it in most, or at least in my experience, the things I see it in most is the people who are experienced DMs and they're already very familiar with some common things like a goblin. They know roughly what the CR of a goblin is, what the hit points are for a goblin. And
Yeah.
so it's difficult for them not
AC
to metagame. And if I'm running something
distances.
and I can tell we haven't made it all the way around and maybe I have some, kids. That's the other thing that happens at a convention. Sometimes you get children and I can tell they're going to be disappointed if they don't get a chance to hit it too. I'm just going to give it a couple more hit points even though it's not part of the story because their experience at this table reflects the game of D&D. It doesn't matter if I add 12 hit points to this character so that everyone has a good time. But the DM who already knows that that goblin does not have that many
Not
hit
have
points
right.
sometimes just needs to keep it zipped and not sit up and be like, actually, that thing would be dead.
Actually, yeah.
Like just play the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, shut up, play the game.
And I think myself as a player, and short of my adolescence, I've had very little adult play, or very little play as an adult. Let me say it like that. And even though I may have known that, like I never questioned the DM on that. Not because like, man, I don't. In my mind, the wheels are turning, but like I'm giving the DM enough credit, until proven otherwise, that they're doing that for a reason. Either this is a bigger, badder goblin that we don't know about. Maybe this is some sort of mutation that we don't know about, right? So I don't think it's fair to the DM that, and I think also I'll say immature and irresponsible of this backseat DM to make all these assumptions, right? You don't know the
Mhm.
full story. You don't know what's going on. You don't know where this goblin came from. Or maybe he's not even friggin' full goblin. Maybe he's a mix of this or that, right? You don't know. And like
Maybe
Eric,
he doesn't even have a goblin stat block, and I have reskinned him as something else.
right. And
Homebrew is a
right,
thing.
and that was my next comment, right? So even what you're saying, Erica, he has a few more hit points. Okay. She did that for a reason. And does it really
Homebrew.
matter? No, come on. Like you said, just
It's not going to
play.
break the game,
Just play. Yeah.
I'm glad you know all this information. I'm glad I homebrewed all of it.
Yeah. Oh, and
right?
so and that'll tie into, okay, so that'll kind of roll us right into, I guess, one, two, three. We'll skip ahead to number four, the cheater, right?
Oh, five.
And
Five's the cheater.
five.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Five's the
Yes.
cheater.
Okay, whatever. The cheater,
Whatever.
and one of the ways players cheat is through metagaming, right? And for me, metagaming is very easy to fix. As you said, Erica, I'm just going to get more hit points. Problem solved. I reskinned him. He's not that. He was exposed to something toxic and it morphed him and he's bigger and stronger, and suck it up, Buttercup.
Homebrew.
Yeah.
Mm,
So that for me, that's easy to kind of adjudicate on that,
Take my homebrew
because I,
card.
I can I can pivot quickly enough. I can make up shit fast enough that I'm going to say nope, it's not that way. But if they continue to challenge, um, then that's where the challenge comes in, right? At that point, if they continue to challenge me as the DM, that's where I get challenged, and I need to do something about that, right? On that kind of cheating. So, how would I handle that? I don't know. I think that might be the time when I'm going to say, well, this is what it is. We'll talk about it later. You know,
we can
um,
talk about that offline.
yeah. So that just so we can continue to play for now, right? And then thereafter, hey, I did this because you were metagaming, and that was my quick way to handle that. And don't metagame.
Mhm.
And then we'll go from there, as we talked about, as your signs, right? So now I've addressed that behavior. But if that behavior continues, then maybe it's time for you to go, because that's cheating. Metagaming is cheating.
One
Now,
of the things I've really been relieved on, though, is that as I thought I would see a lot more uh, cheaters in terms of dice rolls, I've been really surprised by how honest the D&D community tends to be about their dice rolls, or at least in my experience.
Control.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's good, and to me that's encouraging to hear, because that's another way that people will cheat, right?
Mhm.
And I say that's encouraging because that means like the word's getting out that it's not a win or lose. Because
Right.
if you start doing that, not only are you cheating, now you're creating an adversarial role of you, the cheating dice rolling player, against everyone else. Like, it's not a
Yeah.
competition. That's not the way this game works. There's no win,
Right.
there's no lose, there's no
I gotta
finish
win.
line per se,
Ugh,
right?
and I
It's not.
love nat ones. As a DM, I love nat ones. You
I think they're
failed
so
and you failed
ironic. Right.
phenomenally, and I
Well,
get to tell you all about it.
so, and other way. Well, I haven't really experienced this, I don't think, but other ways players will cheat, and we all know this. This is not news to anyone, or to us anyway. But I want to make sure we highlight it so that we know what a cheater is in D&D, since there is no winning and losing. You can't say, oh, you
Right.
you you cheated and you won because you cheated. There's no winning, okay?
Min
Um,
maxing.
and if the cheating continues after being addressed, then it's time for you to go. But other ways, players will cheat. They'll fudge their die rolls. They'll make up stuff on their character sheet. If you are,
Well, change their stats when you're not
they
looking.
may change their
Or
stats.
spells.
They
That's
might
spells.
tell you they have modifiers that they don't. If you're keeping inventory management on consumables, whether that be food or ammunition or something, and they never
Gold.
seem to run out while everyone else is running out, again, that's right, another form of cheating. Or if you, as the DM, as you're not expected to know every single spell, they say, I want to cast a spell, and you say, okay, what does it do? What's
Did you
its area
prepare
of
that?
effect? And they start making shit up, even if it's only this much outside of spec, and they know it because they want it to work for them. They want the limelight again, right? Then you're cheating.
Mm,
You're
The
cheating.
wrong level.
Oh yeah, or it's
yeah.
intentionally the wrong. Oh, I made a mistake. I didn't realize I was level 2. I said I was level 6.
Tracking your
No,
spell slots.
come on. Yeah, so all that stuff. That's
Your
just
spell
more
slots.
forms, more types of cheating, just beyond the obvious dice rolls. But for
Being
me,
coming to a table with a really, really, really like broken like race or class that you definitely have banned previously, and they come to the table with it anyway.
I
yeah,
definitely have a ban list
yeah,
for my
no,
games.
yeah.
Or like coming to
They're
the table with a
game
magic
dependent.
item that's crazy and off the wall.
Oh yeah. Luckily, I will say this, playing a lot of Adventure League, there are certain types of D&D play that you don't experience that at all.
Yeah, right.
Good.
Yep. And I was going to say that. So how does that? Okay, for the
I don't magic item.
for
I
I
dispel.
guess I'm not sure how much this applies to you, Erica, but I know it does to Julie. Like Julie said, someone shows up to your game. They have their character sheet, and they got all kinds of magic item gear, whatever. Like where? How does that
Yep.
happen? How do you allow that when no one
So,
else in the
I
party
guess
has it, or they only have
backstory
everyone else only has
explanation
one, and this
stuff.
so
guy's
all of
coming in
our
with
Adventure
6.
League stuff is all WotC approved.
Yes.
Everything has to be balanced. And so we have literally a serial number for our Adventure League, and the treasure for each is known. And at Comic Con, you sign in with your name, your badge ID, and the Adventure League module you are running. We don't go so far as to say, did they TPK? Did they win? Did they get everything? We just look up,
Mm.
did you play in the module that drops this? If we think someone shows up with a bunch of stuff that doesn't make sense for a tier two, how the heck? Because the whole point of Adventure League is running a character from like is playing without a campaign, leveling a character through all these adventures and being able to take them along with you to different
Yeah.
adventures when you don't have a core group. So you are collecting items. The goal is to collect items and become stronger, but you can't make those up, and those aren't made up. They
Nope.
are documented, and to be
Approved.
honest, I don't know how I would go look and check. I am looking for the obvious stuff, though. If you are, so you get a level per Adventure League game. So if somebody is a level 3, that means they've been through 3 Adventure League games to get there. If they have 5 magic items, I know that doesn't make sense because you only played in 3 games to get here. So you should only have 3. So there's little things like that that you do see more often.
So
But
the Adventure League doesn't keep track of those character sheets.
they keep track of the player's name, their badge ID, and the game ID they played. And so I would have to look up the game ID to see what dropped from it to actually check that they have that
All right,
item.
but even
Fun
at
pinball.
that, I mean, maybe one of the other characters got that item, or does every character get that item?
It's technically character bound, and you would have no idea if
Right,
they came in
right,
because we don't collect the character names. There are certain elements of trust, right? Like we don't check that they won
right.
in their
And
game.
and by that you mean they didn't die, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah, yeah.
might
If
Yeah.
they
die.
died or they didn't finish the adventure, which that's kind of on the DM though, uh, they if they completed it successfully, they should have gotten their reward. If they did not complete it successfully, they don't get their reward. And we cross the reward off of because they get a sheet after that explains what they get. Like you get 1 level out of this, you get 8 hours worth of rest time to build stuff. Like there's stuff that they get from finishing a module, and we give that to them, but we cross out what they didn't earn. Like if they didn't find a certain thing that was hidden, we cross it out. Um, so it's up to us to decide how nitty gritty we want to really
Okay.
be about it.
But that
If we
again,
feel they're going to break the game or
so
not.
that right, so that is an example of cheating, right? If especially,
Yeah.
and it makes it easier because while that's supposed to be very well managed, it's easy to
There's only
kind of
so much we can
circumvent
do.
that, right? There's only so much control or management they have on that. But Julie, on the other hand, she
To
runs.
cheat at a one shot.
Yeah,
Right?
So, but
It's there's not as much impact. There's more
correct.
impact when you cheat on a long-term
Right.
campaign.
So using
Yes.
your game as example, Julie, if someone walked in, they hit their little sign up, they made your list, and they show up to play with their pre-gen character, pre-gen by them, and they have all these stats, and they have this, and they have just
I got a +3 in everything.
yeah. Well,
It's
Yeah,
great. I
not
rolled my
exactly.
not only
stats.
for me as the dean, like how did this happen? Like at that point, I would be raising questions, right? Do you like just make all this shit up, or have you actually played this character up to level 4, and that's how you amass this stuff? But
I would change my mind and be like, now we're doing point buy.
how do you address that, Julie?
Um, so usually I have another player, and you guys probably wouldn't agree with me and say that he's probably a backseat DM, but I have kind of like a co DM, and they're really nice in how they explain rules and give me suggestions, and I really appreciate them for it. And they're very helpful to me personally, and they're like kind of semi on my side about a lot of things and rulings. And I just don't know the rules very well, and they know the rules way, 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 way too well. They're like a little walking encyclopedia, and they'll just barf the rules at me. And so my co DM, as they are, would also be on my side about someone's bullshit. And so usually if someone would come to my campaign and be like, "Look at this bullshit," and I'd be like, "Well, that's bullshit." And then my co DM would probably also look at it and be like, "That's bullshit." So I have someone to back me up
And that is a tactic
personally.
for public DM. Sorry,
Yeah.
for public D&D. Most live play streamers who have a consistent cast will have what they call the secret co-DM, who's part of the player, who's one of the players, who can vocalize that they agree with the DM from the player's seat in it so that the rest of the players kind of are on board with the players without feeling like they've been steered. And this is important when you are using D&D for entertainment because you don't want the show to be railroaded. But in order to maintain control of your players, having a intentional co-DM player whose role
Sometimes he
is
isn't.
to agree with the DM, like that's like or help or assist or bring the players back to
Yeah, yeah,
story.
yeah.
Um,
We
that
have
that
that
is
a
an
lot.
actual role of public play players.
I also have 9 motherfuckers at my table, so it helps too. Yeah, I have
What
a
is
I have
wrong with you?
I'm number 9, so I have 8 players.
It's still
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, it's still really bad.
It's way too many
And
So
people.
bad.
Oh my
that is
So
just
god.
bad.
one reason why she's going to spend 3 years playing Curse of Strahd.
Curse of Strahd. Yeah, I am. It's okay.
Absolutely. It's gonna take
Yes.
It's
forever.
Okay, but
modded
listen,
Curse of Strahd too.
I
It's not even
Erica,
just
I'm
raw.
not surprised to hear that. And like I kind of alluded to earlier, good players, right? That could make a good player to be supportive of the DM, right? And that's um, one of the categories, if you will, of being a good player, or of the types of players rather. But so I'm not surprised to hear that. But that also continues to support my concern that a lot of this entertainment, as we said, entertainment DM or D&D, it, it's very easy for it to be not become D&D because it's casted, it's
Hmm.
acted, it's entertainment, it's a show, and it's not
Hmm.
actually playing the game.
Yep.
So I won't get on that soapbox. I'll just toss that little nugget in there, that little ember to spark the fire. Okay, so moving on because we are already at an hour time. We still got a few more um, toxic players we want to brush
Can we
upon.
take
What?
a small pause?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Then let's do this. Let's stop this video altogether, part one,
Take
part
a small
two,
pause.
and we'll. Okay, so we're going to stop recording here. So this is going to conclude
I have
mid
to pee so bad.
conversation about toxic players. Um, and we will record another episode immediately following to be posted at a different point in time as we will continue our conversation of what are toxic players and how do we address them as DMs. So you guys have a good night. Peace out, and we'll see you probably the following week. Have a good night.